Well, thank you very much for staying with us. Our next conversation is a focus on security reportage. And, well, Ekiti State Governor recently said if the Nigerian media fails to play the role they have played in the past to press for and help promote the imperatives of unity in diversity and sustain democratic rule, there is no doubt that democratic rule will atrophy and the nation-building process will go into reverse gear. Well, I guess we did that quite well during the June 12 struggle. I hate to use the word struggle, but I think we did that fairly well.
It was a struggle.
Well, I just hate to use the word, but yeah, I mean, you're right. That's exactly what it was.
Okay,
anyway,
June 12 debacle.
Impasse. All kinds of words came up at that time.
Okay, all kinds of synonyms.
And, of course, the press had to fulfill their role and all of that. But there have been questions about what does the media need to do to be able to ask the questions that will help to resolve the issues without necessarily making the situation any worse than it already is. Let's have a conversation this morning with three guests on the panel. Mary Fatile is convener, prayer and support, the Nigerian Armed Forces and other security agencies. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We also have with us Kasim Akinriti, who is former chairman, Nigeria Union of Journalists. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
As well as Sheyi Aditaya, who is a security consultant. Thank you very much for being here this morning.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Akinriti, you're the journalist. It's ladies first, but you're the journalist. So let me ask you, let me begin with you. You have heard that position of a good number of people that the way we report security or insecurity issues seems to give more vent to the situation. So you have a job to do to report, but then you do not want to play the role of a force multiplier to a negative thing such as insecurity. How do you respond?
Well, I think the nature of our job, of our role, the role of the media, presupposes that we need to inform the people, educate people, and of course entertain them. But in the context of doing that, we are not so conscious of the effect of the information we are giving to the people. We are obviously not, do know that there's also a repercussion for the level of education we also give to the people. But of course, we are doing this within the context of public good, public interest. And that's it to also, delve into the issue of how we report security issues or insecurity. Honestly, it has not been salutary, if we have to face that fact. Because it doesn't seem to understand that we're also part of that conflict. Because when you are reporting conflict, you're also part of it. And if you're not careful, you are going to go along with it. So the media must understand these dynamics. That in as much as, yes, people have the right to know, there is also the effects, which, in media theory, we call, epidemic need effects theory, in mass conscious theory, that have a lot of impacts on the people. If we are reporting insecurity the way we are doing, we will continue to create fear among the people, which is exactly what is happening now. And we're also going to be ridiculing our institution, which is the armed forces. So we need to now balance the act in the sense that we need to show our patriotism, understanding of the situation which we are. That it's extraordinary. Because this is the first time the Nigerian military is fighting an asymmetry war. And perhaps these challenges is not what we have been used to. So that exactly what we must understand, we need to support the military, the armed forces.
Okay.
We are understanding the dynamics of the war and the kind of and the repercussion of just getting out or look at the sensational aspect of it. So each time in the morning you open the newspaper, it's about killings, it's about deaths, it's about, so it's quite horrifying. Whereas those who are trying to mimic, who are trying to say, well, it's a free press, it's free this, it's free that. There's also the way they do it at the back channel.
Okay.
To ensure that people understand what they're doing.
But let me ask you, madam, what's your take on what he's just said now, given that our conversation here is not really talking about the insecurity issues, which is clear and present, but one of the things he talked about is the impact or the effect on the security forces. What's your take on that?
As media practitioners, we need to be strategic when we are doing our reports. We don't just come out and begin to, because we are the ones that the society listen to, that the masses listen to. It is what we say that they will take. So when we begin to say negative things about our military, our armed forces, it causes chaos, and that is what we are facing now.
But it's not as much of a talking, disparaging them, but as in saying things that people experience. It is true that people die. Yes. It is true that these issues happen. I do not recall anyone really saying the military is not doing anything, but that those things are happening. So I'm wondering, what you mean when you say putting down the military.
No, what I'm trying to say is that the reportage of the media is not supposed to be the way it is now. We need to stream down most things, like the social media, for instance. They go viral. When they see anything, take for instance, if Boko Haram kills one and they post that they've killed 10, they just carry it and they begin to escalate it. It's like you are giving cheap popularity to them. It's not supposed to be so. If you look at Africa today, I think our military is number one. Our armed forces should be number one. They go out of the country and they perform very well. So what is happening to our country? Because even the media, the social media, who are supposed to say good things about them, they'll begin to escalate things that are not there.
Mr. Detayo, what I'm hearing is that maybe you security guys even prefer for the media not to even report anything at all, just to let sleeping dogs lie.
No,
I mean,
that's assuming that the dog is sleeping.
So no, not really. So the problem here has to do with both the media and the government. It's not just media problem alone, and I've come to that. You see, security is about perception. That's what we normally say, and security perception in most cases is different from objective reality of security. That is, how we feel about whether we are secured or not may be entirely different from the reality on ground. And it's a subject of what the kind of environment we create for ourselves in our mind. And I'll give an example. You see, you and I'm not sure anyone here will be willing to go to Abuja, from Abuja to Kaduna by road here. Will you be willing to do that? I won't. Give me an APC with soldiers, I won't go by road. But do you know that people are traveling on that road every day? Mm-hmm. I can tell you 90% of people traveling on that road every day, they are locals who are doing business, moving from one community to the other, from Abuja to Kaduna. They have things to do. And these people are not on social media. Likely not on social media. They don't even have time to watch the TV. Their reality is the few things that they hear, and that is what they believe. But those of us that will not go by road, the legislators, the politicians in Abuja, who are doing business, who are working in ministry, will not go by. Why? Because the reality that the social media and the conventional media has created for us is our reality. I will believe that it's like putting one foot in a crocodile-infested river. You know that before the leg entered the river, that's our perception about it. So, why I say that Yeah, you know, both are guilty. Is that one? If you don't want the media to carry the information in such a way that will create a negative perception, then you must be willing to provide information, truth, the real information. Because, you know, talking about subversion or trying to stop people carrying negative information, the solution is that always publish the truth. If the truth is out there, you will kill the rumor mills. And then the moment you see that a rumor is going out there, try to publish, counter the rumor immediately. And that's why I love what Lagos State Command, Police Command is doing. The current PPRO is always there watching before any negative information circulates in Lagos. You see him on Twitter trying to counter and put the truth there. That helps to balance the information in Lagos. Let me give another example. Lagos State government held meeting with all security agencies, and they're in that meeting for 3 hours. Even channels carried it this morning, and Governor Sowolu. But the truth is that the meeting was informed by the rumor in the last few days that ISWAP is planning to bomb Lagos. But is there anything new in that story? The answer is no. Lagos has always been in the agenda of Al-Qaeda, of ISWAP, and every terrorist organization to bomb since the beginning of the time that we started this crisis. And the threat on Lagos has not increased. They're still on the same level. Why the pressure this time around? Because we allow rumor to fester. Do you remember that we had an Ijora Badia successful DSS operations where a terrorist hideout was busted? And they were able to, you know, arrest the people with lots of ammunitions and bombs and explosives. Lagos didn't go into panic that time. There was a bomb explosion at Folawiyo, somewhere around the Ijora again, terminal. And it was managed. Lagos did not go into security panic. Why not that we've not even seen any major? So it's important that when we allow the wrong information to circulate, everyone will become afraid. And one thing I want to also add is that the number of arrests that the security forces have made in Lagos in terms of terrorists, if they make it known to the public, will be shivering. But because they are arresting every day. And the reason why they are managing the information is that Lagos is the economic nerve of this nation. We cannot afford to create a situation where people will be afraid to go out and do business in Lagos.
So then there is the challenge. I mean, Mr. Kiriti said it the other time, and I'm glad, you know, for Alero's question to you. So there is the challenge of having information, having enough information, and balancing the information. Because if there are gaps, and the PPRO, for instance, just maybe happened to be at a meeting and he couldn't attend to it immediately, it took about 2, 3, 4 hours. There are journalists, and then there are citizen journalists.
Yes.
Who are not going to wait for confirmation of the information.
And even the journalist has a deadline.
I mean, it's even better these days, you know. But back in the days when Mr. Kennedy was a journalist on the beat, there was no social media. So he got back to base. There is no confirmation or counter confirmation. He goes to press. Following morning, you know, the news is out. There is no corrigendum, no reversal or rearranging of the facts until another 24 hours. So, but today, the citizen journalist is on social media. So there is information, there is enough information. So thank you. There is information, right or wrong. There is enough information which would eliminate, you know, gaps of falsehood, and then there is a balance. And that's where the challenge of the security operatives is.
You see, if you watch the social media now, the moment someone tries to carry false information, you see that some people right there in that timeline, their response, they will publish the right information, say this is fake, and publish the right information. The reason is that somehow there have been opportunity for a counter narrative around that information. And that's why I said that government has a responsibility as much as the media. Government must make sure that its public relation machinery are actually working. And it's a lot better now compared to before, when we have all this colonial mentality where we just want to hoard things and we believe that no information. No. For us to be able to solve problems now, we need to put information out there and the right information.
Okay, Mr. Akinreti, I want you to respond to that, because that was the question I was going to ask you.
Yes.
The FOI, how is that working regarding getting the right information before you go to press?
Obviously, FOI is not only for the media. FOI is also for everyone, for citizens.
For every Nigerian,
right,
yes.
For every Nigerian.
Yes.
Because you have the right to ask questions, to get information from institutions of
but I'm
government.
sure as journalists, you use
yeah,
it
but
more
journalists,
than
which is much more than they are doing. The challenge from FOI, even right now, is that some institutions of government do not even make information available to you, despite all the effort you have done to get this information from them. And that leads to rumor, counter-rumor, and disinformation. And that is exactly what the social media guys are feeding on. So I was just doing a research now. We have almost over 500 online platforms. This is empirical. Every person is opening a news blog, is opening a news website, is putting an information out, which are not verified, which are not confirmed, which you don't obviously know the imports of this information. But because of citizen journalism, they decide they are citizens and they have the right to give information out, and some of them also have the facilities to put this information out there. So the challenge for the regulatory authority is that, how do we manage these guys? And that is exactly what is happening to the military. They will see something happening. It's also so bad that visuals are also released uncensored. Because when you send out visuals, you affect the sensibilities of the people. As far as these guys are concerned, those in social media platforms, they don't care. But they are sharing that information to you, and they keep sharing, keep forwarding. At the end of the day, when the traditional media are also going to handle it, it becomes a challenge. Oh, how do I look at people that already know this story? So how do I tilt? What kind of am I going to give to it?
Okay, well,
so you are in the cogma as a professional, but you can manage it.
We're making where it's already getting beyond the security reportage that I would like us to focus on. That we invited you to talk about. There is something very important that I think you mentioned, which might be able to help. Yeah. But how do we rein people in on that path? You talked about the importance of patriotism.
Absolutely.
How significant would that be? How much will it affect our reportage, our perception, as Mr. Adetayo mentioned the other time? How will it affect the information people put out at a time when generally there is a high level of distrust between the governed and the government? And someone is supposed to champion the cause of patriotism that will help to stem the tide of fake news and the rest of them, especially concerning security. Putting such information out, as she said, jeopardizes security efforts, puts the lives of our security personnel, all 20 or 37 or whatever number of the agencies there are. So how do we pass on the message of patriotism to help stem the tide of negative security reportage?
First of all, we must all understand that security is everyone's business. And if you want to have a peaceful society, so atmosphere, that is where you can make business, that way you can make money. And so patriotism is not a lip service. It should be given. But what we all need to do now is that, can we, find a way to trust our leaders? We just have to. It's extremely important. However, how bad the situation would be, there must be element of trust, because it's the trust that's also going to bring out the issue of patriotism. That for us, we must have a nation before we can have discourse, before everybody can start struggling for anything. And that's that send that signal to you that I need to be patriotic so that I can have a country. But today, the media is about good journalism, good business. So everybody brings aspects of business angle into the thinking. And that affects the essence of patriotism. Okay. But the government agencies that are saddled with this responsibility should be up and doing. In the days of MAMSA, it's always a sing-song. And everybody you find at every desk will always be singing, talking about MAMSA messages. So NOA will have to step up this activity. It's extremely important. And those who are in charge of, giving out even messages must also remember that the element of information I'm giving out, what for? When do I give it out? How do I give it out? What value is it adding to my life? And what value is it adding to the patriotism of the country?
I was going to take you up when you said good journalism, good business. One of the things that you people also say is
we are in it together.
Bad news sells. But we'll come to that some other time.
Talking about MAMSA. Me, I like my country,
I like
land and people.
Everything is there for Nigeria. Make it better to make Nigeria great. So why is that song?
Better.
Make Nigeria
better. That's right.
Please,
Where
people
are
should go
those?
and buy Wale Soyinka Tunji Oyelano's album, Ethical Revolution. Yes, ma'am. Wanted to respond to this whole thing about patriotism will help to stem this tide, hopefully. Security agencies already demonstrated their patriotism when they signed the dotted lines and said, I'm ready to die for this country. That's why anyone would join any security agency, as far as I'm concerned. Now, that out there, there is also the challenge of giving enough information to people so that people don't look for information that is not lost. How do we address that, in your opinion?
I think, like in the military, they have procedures. You can't just come out and give information when your boss has not told you to do that. So you will need to get to your boss to get all the right information before you pass it out. There's a regiment. You can't just something happened that, because I know at times the media will say, oh, I called the PRO and he was not responding. It can't just respond immediately. It needs to get
the go-ahead
before responding.
So that's the challenge, that's the gap as far as you
That is the gap.
Okay. Mr. Adetayo, patriotism. I'm listening to you.
That came from a very deep
place.
Yes. So, you see, talking about patriotism, it doesn't stand in isolation. There must be an identity attached to patriotism. How? What do you see yourself to be? That is what you are patriotic towards. And from the people, like he said, there is an identity issue in Nigeria born out of lack of trust over many years of deception and deceit. And that's why I said information is critical. When your people don't trust you because they believe you are lying as a government, their patriotism will be questioned. Even they will have conflict within. And for security practitioners, you have no option. There is no, you can't have a second mind or second thought around who you are patriotic to. I serve this country, and I'm patriotic up till now because the oaths that I sign, holds me for life, and I must do everything to support this country as long as it exists. And same for everyone, whether they are still serving. So if you go outside of it, it means that your orientation must have been changed over certain things. You have jumped ship. So it's expected that all members of the armed forces, now, when they act, at times we might misinterpret their action to mean that probably they are not telling us the truth. At times we might misinterpret their action to mean that probably they are self-serving. But the truth is that there are certain things that we do not know. And that's why I expect that government should be able to. You made mention of NOA. National Orientation Agency is as good as dead in Nigeria. It's one of the major problems we have in Nigeria. This is the period when NOA is supposed to be more functional than any, because now you have platform to reach out to people.
They have also complained that they don't have enough funding.
They don't need that much funding.
Did we not hear that they
I
had no
can
budget?
tell you why. They don't need that much funding. NOA is under Ministry of Information. The Ministry of Information controls all the agencies that regulates the media.
Yeah.
And also even those who are in the entertainment industry. All what NOA needs to do is to identify those who are major influencers in Nigeria, create a program where he works with them, develop content where those people will help to, and get all media organizations to say, give us these particular time slots.
You're already consulting for them right here. We have to thank you very much for being here this morning. Mary Fatile is convener of Prayer and Support the Nigerian Armed Forces and other security agencies. Thank you so much for your time. And all the best. We've also had Kasim Akinrezi, who is a former chairman of Nigeria Union of Journalists. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
As well as Sheyi Adetayo, a security consultant. I'm sure NOA will be calling you very soon. Well, that conversation leads us to this break, after which another one will come. This time, some people are saying enough tourism. What kind of tourism?
Medical.
Medical tourism. More on that when we return.